So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So today we are going to talk about strategies. So this is a tree diagram we made for the Ultimatum game last class. So there are 5 possible offers, and for each offer is one branch of the tree, and then after that there are 2 possible moves that the other player makes, which is accept or reject. So basically there are actually 6 times 2, 12 branches or nodes. Now, a strategy for any player is something which specifies at every single node where he has to make a decision, what decision he will make. So it says how he will play the game under every conceivable circumstances. So once you have a strategy, then you don't need the person because he has written down his orders. Alright, so what I'm going to do is to distribute these sheets. Let's go. Everyone should take 2 of them. And so the front side is not relevant right now. Just write down your name. And let's do an experiment just to explain what a strategy is. Now, there are 2 players. The proposer, he has to offer a share. So it can be anything. We're going to play this game. We're going to play 2 or 3 games today, and the way I'm going to use this for is that you will turn these papers back in, and this will be graded as counted as a grade, so that the points have some value. That is your score will be around on the average 12 points plus about 5 or 17, 20 points. This is so in the first game, everyone should write down a proposal, which means that the strategy for the proposal is just one of 10 numbers. It's going to be 0. You have a total of 10 points that you are sharing between yourself and the other person. And so you write down your name and your offer. That is, as a proposer, that's what your strategy is. How much you are offering, because that you only have one branch of the tree, and at that tree you have to make one decision, and so the strategy specifies what that decision is going to be. So you can offer 10, which means you're giving everything to the other person. You can offer 5, you can offer 3, you can offer 0, you can offer 1. You have 11 possible moves. You have to choose one of 11 possible strategies. So write down your name on the back side of the page, not on the front, on the side which is blank. That is where you should use. Write your name and your offer as proposer. The front side will be used later in the game. अगर किसी ने खराब कर दिया तो वो निशा के पास extra. You write the name on the front side. That's not a problem. Just write on the back side, the empty side, the blank side, your name and then your offer as a proposer.
So, should the offer be C or D or numbers?
No. The back side is for a game we will play later. We are playing Ultimatum game. You have to offer some number of points between 0 and 10.
Do we have to write the offer on the
Yes, write the offer on the back side of the piece of paper. Front is later, front ka bhul jao. Just use the back side. Write your name and then your offer. There is a 10 points that you have to share between yourself and the other party. If you offer him 0, you will get all 10 if he accepts. If you offer him 5 and he accepts, you get 5. If he rejects, then both of you get 0 points. Alright, so everybody has written down an offer? Now, You are going to play a second game. On the same piece of paper, write down you are responder. So the second line. So now I'm going to talk about the strategies for the responder. So there are 11 possible moves. At each move he has to specify whether he will accept or reject. So there are actually 2 to the 11 or 2048 different strategies. You have to list for every single number. Yani 0 I will accept or I will reject, 2 I will accept or I will reject. So there is a 11 sequences of 11 binaries. So it's 2040 strategies. That's too many to write down, but you will write down one strategy, and there's one way to simplify the strategy, and that is called the minimum acceptable offer. So write down responder : MAO. And now the minimum acceptable offer is one special type of strategy. It says that I will reject all offers below this amount and I will accept all offers above this amount. So these are the simplified set of strategies which are sensible. I mean, you could say that I will accept 0 but I will reject 1, but I will accept 2 but I will reject 3, but that's not a very sensible strategy. On the back side, only use the back side. The front side will be used in a later game after the lecture. Only use the blank back side of the lecture. Write down your offer, and now write down your MAO, the minimum acceptable offer. So this can be 5, this can be 7, this can be 3, this can be 1. On the same sheet, underneath the exactly. So these are two strategies which you have written down. One is the strategy for the proposer, and one is the strategy for the responder. So now the thing about the strategy is that whereas in a game, in a branch, you have to make a decision and you have to play, the strategy just puts down everything you are going to do in one shot. And so now what we are going to do, हो गया सबने लिख लिया क्या हुआ? You just have to write one number for the strategy, just one number. What is the smallest amount that you are willing to accept? That is called the minimum acceptable offer. That is a strategy because it actually specifies 11 decisions at the same time. All decisions below that number will be rejected. All decisions equal to or above that number will be accepted. So it's actually specifying 11 decisions in just one number. That is why it is a strategy. So if everybody has written down a strategy, then Nisa, just collect all the papers. Alright. While we are waiting for the papers to be collected, I will go on to the next slide and discuss. So here is a simplified form of the game. I have taken 4 offers that P1 can make. P1 can offer 0 or 25% or 50% or 75%. We could also offer 100%, but we assume this is not. So we prune the strategies. We get rid of the bad strategies because otherwise the strategy tree becomes very long. Just like we did with the MAO, we got rid of some of the bad strategies. All right. So the next thing, Nisa, I think I would like you to do this job. Okay, so in this game I have depicted that the 25% is what the P1 has chosen. The player 1 has chosen to offer 25%. So that's just by the color. The black color shows the choice. He had 4 choices to make. Among these he chose. So that's his strategy. Now the other player, the second player, has an accept or reject. So I have chosen the dark blue to show his decision. So his strategy is to reject 0, reject 25, reject 50 and accept only 75%. So this is his strategy. So when these two strategies are played against each other, then what happens? Well, then what happens is that the P1 made an offer of 25, it was rejected. So the game is that both of them get 0-0. Acha, Nisa, what I want you to do is to randomly match these up and then grade them. Samajh ke? Yani, alright, I'll show you. Okay, here's one. Asma, Jabeen and Irshad Khan are playing with each other. So Irshad Khan offered 5 and the minimum acceptable offer was 5. 4 to 10, I accept if it is 4 to 10. So yes. So in this case, Asma gets 5 and he gets 5. And then in the other case, the responder's MA was 4 and she is offering 4. So she gets 6 and he gets 4. ठीक है? इस तरह से सबको pair up करके randomly score कर दो and then return. Alright, so in this case we found out what happened. So now you see the strategic form. Once you list the strategies, then you can create a table and put the game. So we have discussed the tree form. Now the other form is the normal form. This is called the normal form. In the normal form, you list all the strategies in the rows and all the strategies for the other player in the columns, and then you just match them up, because one strategy plays the other strategy and the outcome is determined. So here I am showing you what will happen in this game. So the offer can be the minimum acceptable offer can be 0, 25, 50, 75 or 100, and the offer can be 0, 25, 50, 75 or 100. So now I look at the best possible responses to the minimum acceptable offer. So suppose somebody says my minimum acceptable offer is 0. He's a very easygoing person. He will take anything. In that case, the best offer is 0. So that's the one highlighted in red. So if the other player plays the strategy MAO 0, then the best strategy for the first player is to offer him nothing, take everything for himself. Now if the minimum acceptable offer is 25, then the best offer is again 25. So it's always true that whatever the MAO, your best offer is to offer him that one, because if you offer less, then both people will get 0, and if you offer more, then you will not maximize your payoff. So along the diagonal we have all the minimum acceptable offers, all the best strategies. Now that's the best strategy for the proposer given the MAO. Now we look at it from the other side, because a Nash equilibrium is when both parties are playing their best strategy against the other party. So now if the player offers 0, if the first proposer offers 0, then all strategies are best. So actually 100-0 is called a weak Nash equilibrium, because if the responder can play 0, he doesn't gain anything by playing anything different. So this is why it's weak. if he actually lost something by playing something different, if this was the unique best move, then this would be a strong Nash equilibrium. But because this is, he can play anything else, so it is a weak Nash equilibrium because this is not his unique maximum. It is a maximum, but it is not a unique maximum. All the possible choices give him zero payoff, so he gets nothing regardless of what he does. Now, if he is offered 25, then he should accept it. That is the best possible play, and so 75-25 is a Nash equilibrium. It is this time a strong Nash equilibrium. If he takes his other move, which is reject, then he will get 0, and if he accepts, he will get 25. So this time, it's a strong Nash equilibrium. Similarly, if he is offered 50, he should accept everything. The only case, so if the first person offers him 100%, then this is a strong, of course, for him acceptance is good, but this is a weak Nash equilibrium because for the first person he gets 0 regardless of what he makes. So there are two weak Nash equilibrium at both the ends, either 0-100 or 100-0. These are weak Nash equilibrium. Otherwise, all offers are a Nash equilibrium. So there are multiple Nash equilibriums. So the theory of Nash equilibrium in normal form does not tell us anything about how this game will be played. This is very different from the tree form analysis. Something has gone wrong. And something has gone wrong in the sense that we expect that the normal form will translate the tree form, but the normal form is saying something quite different from the tree form. So at the offer of 0% and 100%, these are weak Nash equilibrium. At all other points, these are strong Nash equilibrium. So the problem arises because sequencing has been removed from the picture. And so now you see, one possibility is that the second player says that my minimum acceptable offer is 90%. Now the first person must offer him 90% or he will lose. So a Nash equilibrium is when the first player offers him 90% and remains, and this is a Nash equilibrium, as long as the MAO is 90%, the other person has to offer 90%. So in our initial analysis of the ultimatum game, we saw that the first player has a tremendous advantage and he should offer him 1 and keep 99% for himself, and the other player will be forced to accept. But here we are seeing that the second player can actually take all the money if he has a low MAO in the Nash equilibrium. So what is the problem? Well, so the economists don't like this, and they say actually this is a very real thing that happens in real world. But the economists want to create an equivalence between the tree form and the normal form. So there is a way to do that, and that is called the credible threat. So suppose that the responder announces that I will only accept 75% or more. You do whatever you like. So now the Nash equilibrium strategy in front of this MAO is called is 75%. You have to offer him that, otherwise both will get 0. So, but now basically what is happening is that the MAO guy has made a threat. He has said that if you offer me less than 25%, then I will reject it. Now you say that, all right, I call your bluff. I offer you 50%. Now what will you do? Now, according to the game theorists, we are now in a different game. Initially, I was at the first node where I was making the offers. Offer had not yet been made. Now the offer is made. This is called a subgame. Now consider this subgame where offer of 50% has been made and I have only two possible moves. I can either accept or reject. Now in this subgame, it doesn't make sense for me to reject. Although I threatened to do so, my threat is not, according to economists, a credible threat. I am bluffing Because once I get to this position, I will say, all right, he has not listened to me, he has called my bluff, and now if I go through with it, I will just be eating the soap, as they say. So instead of that, let me accept this offer. So this is called this strategy, where if you reject the 50%, then in this sub-game, this strategy is the wrong strategy. So we say that a strategy is sub-game perfect, this is the game theoretic name, if in every little small decision in isolation, the strategy does the right thing, that is, it maximizes at that point. So the original strategy, which says my MO is 75%, this is not a sub-game perfect strategy, because in the there is only one sub-game perfect strategy, and that is to accept all positive offers. Because if whenever you threaten to reject a positive offer, when you get to that offer, you will be doing something which is against your self-interest. So once we impose the condition that we will only consider sub-game perfect strategies, then the equivalence between the normal form and the tree form is restored. Now we get the same results. Why? Because the sub-game perfect strategies always plays at every branch the best possible move. It cannot play a different move, because otherwise it would become sub-game imperfect. So as long as the strategy is sub-game perfect, then the normal form of the game and the tree form of the game give exactly the same result. Because basically sub-game perfect strategies are the same as the one that you get by backward induction on the tree form. Because when you make backward induction, you're choosing the best possible move at that point. And that is exactly the strategy that is sub-game perfect. So all the possible strategies have to be sub-game perfect. So this is an important concept in game theory, that the tree form of the game and the normal form of the game are equivalent if we use only sub-game perfect strategies. However, this concept is wrong for many reasons. When we try to apply it to reality, it doesn't work. That is, the normal form and the tree form, if you ask people to play them, it gives different results. Even there are many such situations where the theory shows that two things are equivalent. Very famous example of framing, that if you tell students, you could run this experiment. Do you have your paper? All right, so let's run this experiment. Oh no, I can't, because it requires some concealing of. So let me just say that, suppose we say that here is a medicine, and these people have this disease, dengue for example. This medicine will save 80% of the patients. So, but the other people are told that 20% of the people will die if this medicine is administered. So now should we do it? So the 20% die will say no, don't administer it, and the 80% save will say yes, you should do it. So but it's the same data. So it's the question of framing. How you frame the problem changes the decisions. So this is a famous experiment. So basically the economists find this baffling, but there are very simple explanations once you go outside of the economist's frame of mind, which only looks at rational robots, doesn't look at how human beings think and behave. So I'm saying that although this concept is part of game theory, does it have empirical validity? Do people always play sub-game perfect strategies in real games in the real world? Everybody knows the answer to that, and we already did that in Ultimatum game. Any rejection is sub-game imperfect, but we see that many rejections actually occur. तुम इसको अगर कर दिया ग्रेड तो बांट दो.
एक का पेयर नहीं दो.
अच्छा, उसको किसी से आर्बिट्रेरी से पेयर करके मैच कर दो, यानी उसको ग्रेड कर दो, दूसरे वाले को नहीं करो. So we know that people don't play sub-game perfect strategies, and so the real behavior of the people is not to always maximize at every step of the game. There is a paper called Anomalies Cooperation. This paper by Dawes and Thaler. Thaler is one of the one who won the Nobel Prize. And this paper is an old paper in which he says that economic theory assumes that people are rational and selfish, and they always act to maximize their self-interest. And so, in a prisoner's dilemma, they will never cooperate. So this is actually going to be the focus of our lecture in this class. Now, people will defect, and also they will free ride in a public goods game where if everybody is supposed to contribute something, and then people get benefit of the common good. So the common good is so large that one person's contribution makes no difference. So in that case, most people will not contribute, and then you will have insufficient provision of public goods. It's famous free rider problem. So now he says that this doesn't actually happen in real world, and most people in real world situations, they cooperate, they trust each other, they contribute to public good even though it is against their interest, and there are many examples of this in real world. So he says that there are many assumptions which lead to the economist belief that people will defect and not cooperate. So there are three assumptions he lists, and he says that all of them are problematic in the sense that all of them cause, all of them we can reject in real world. So the one assumption is that people are clever enough to figure out that defection is the optimal dominant strategy. So this requires some calculations, and there are many games which we can show, and I will discuss some examples where people cannot calculate the optimal strategy. So actually economic theory assumes that people are supercomputers. In even very, very complex situations, they can always figure out what is the maximizing strategy. But there are many real world situations in which people make very big mistakes in calculation, and then they play suboptimal strategies just because they couldn't calculate the right strategy. And we all know that when we play chess, we don't know how to play the right game, or in any game we don't always figure out the smartest move. In fact, that's a rather rare exception. So the behavioral economists say that we have bounded computational abilities. Economics assumes infinite computational ability. So then the other thing that the economists assume is that people care nothing about the others. So in the ultimatum game, I'm trying to maximize my own profit, and I don't care about what happens to you. So behaviorists say that yes, people are selfish, but they have bounded selfishness, not infinitely selfish. So they care a little bit. Maybe and actually varies. Some people care more about others, some people care less. But there's nobody who cares nothing except for economists who are trained to think in this way. And then again, the third assumption about people is that they don't care about morality. So I threatened you that I will not accept an offer of 50%, but now you offered, and so I have no izzat. I say, okay, now I will take money. So most people have honor. They say that, okay, I will not take money, I will not break my word. So once I have promised, then to go back on that promise. In fact, it was exactly in discussion of this some years ago at Harvard that people were talking about self-enforcing contracts. And it was this, that you make a contract with the other guy, but when you make a few moves later, then it may not be worthwhile for him to honor that contract because it might be. So according to game theory, then he will break that contract. So the question is, what are the contracts in which at every point of the game both parties are derive benefits from honoring that contract? So there was a little scandal because somebody said in the newspapers that they are teaching people how to cheat and how to break your word in Harvard. And so there was a lot of embarrassment because actually that is what was happening. People saying that, yes, if it is not in your interest to honor your contract, you should break it. That is rational, and that is rational behavior. So That is what economists believe. So they have no qualms about failure of morality, about honoring their word, about trust. So all of these three assumptions about human behavior are wrong, and that is why economists don't predict the outcomes of games correctly. So there is massive evidence for large-scale cooperation and trust. There is public TV which is funded by public contributions. In Pakistan, we have Indus Hospital, Shaukat Khanam, and many, many hospitals running purely by zakat, by donations, which have no personal benefit to the person who is doing. Voting is another example of a public good. Now, if you do the calculations, you find that the chances that your vote will be the swing vote, the one which will cause a difference, are 1 in a million. So you incur time and effort to go out and vote. So the payoff from the vote occurs only when yours is the swing vote. Otherwise, you are just showing up. That is the theory anyway. So it's a public good, but people do vote, and their voting behavior does not depend on the economist idea that will it be the swing vote or not. It depends on other factors. So, and there are many, many examples in real world, real situations, as well as in behavioral economics, that people do contribute. In trust games, we will play some of them later. We will see that people do actually contribute when it is against their self-interest to do so. Of course, we've already seen that in the Ultimatum game. So why do they do that? This is the key question. So the simple answer is that human motivation is far more complex than maximization of money. There are many, many different people behave for many different reasons, and so people are not robots. One of but this is one reason which I will discuss later. But today's lecture I will focus on another reason which is very different and very strange and interesting. And this reason comes from evolutionary biology, and this says that certain types of behavior are preferred by evolution. Now, a major paradigm shift has taken place in biology over the past 30 years. Economists is still stuck in the ancient paradigm where, according to Darwin, actually Darwin didn't actually say that, but his followers thought he had said it, Huxley in particular, and the mainstream biologists thought that the survival of the fittest is the way that the species becomes better, and so the people who are unfit are weeded out of the gene pool. But it turns out that this is not true, and we will discuss. And it turns out that, so it was thought that cooperation is against evolution, and if you cooperate, this is a puzzle according to economists, because if people are cooperative, they will be weeded out of the population. If people are selfish and ruthless, they will survive, and so eventually all of the population should become selfish and ruthless, because those people who are generous and kind and soft, they will be killed off by those people who are ruthless. But now biologists no longer believe this. They used to believe this, but this is no longer true, and so survival does not occur for only selfish and ruthless and competitive. In fact, this can be anti-survival, as we will show in this lecture. So, why do people not play subgame perfect strategies? Because subgame perfection is local maximization of short-run benefits within one game. And we are often in situations where we are playing many games and we should not maximize short-run profits in order to maximize long-run profits. And even with the MAO of 75%, if somebody is really a Pathan and he says that, okay, we are going to play this game many, many times, and this is what I'm going to do, the other person might learn that, well, okay, he's not going to change. The only way for me to make money in this game, either I will get zero, or I start offering him 75% and I take 25% for myself. So that strategy would work. So it's not. So it would be a short run bad loss, but it would lead to long run gains. So the Pathan is not acting stupidly, he's acting smartly in doing this. Also, if I make a commitment and I later break my word, I show everybody that I am not trustworthy. And trust itself is a very valuable trait. With trust, you can do many things which you cannot do if you are not trustworthy. So, just having the appearance of the reputation of honesty is worth a lot. So, there is also, so that's external. But there is also internal. This is something which Western people don't understand. But if you tell lies, this causes damage to your soul. And this is very difficult to make up. You cannot then, if you cannot achieve spiritual growth. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ emphasized so much on not being honest. It is not something for external, it is for your own spiritual growth. If you start telling lies, then this creates flaws and cracks inside your heart which make it very difficult for you to make any spiritual progress. So there is internal psychic damage. So the theoretical problem is, why do people cooperate? This becomes a puzzle for economists because they say default behavior of human is selfish. But actually, if default behavior is maximization of selfish short-run benefits, this is simply wrong. In fact, Amartya Sen has said that this is, there is a paper called Rational Fools. If somebody always maximizes short-run profits, he is foolish. I mean, this is something in English, there is a proverb, penny wise, pound foolish, that in trying to make short-term gains, you are sacrificing very long-term, very big gains. So, actually, maximization is an anomaly. It's an unusual kind of behavior. Normally, people satisfies, find an acceptable solution and do it. And this is because of many reasons. Satisficing is actually a better way of behavior. I mean, maximization engages too much energy and effort in doing something which is not important. So now we will try to analyze cooperation in the prisoner's dilemma, which is a puzzle for economists, but not really from a biological point of view. So now as I said, my angle in this game, there are many angles. The prisoner's dilemma is one of the most extensively analyzed games in the literature. Thousands of papers on it. I'm going to take one angle on this, which is the evolutionary biology. So the wiki article is on cooperation is good. They have up-to-date information. Basically, previously it was thought that cooperation is against survival, but now it is realized that this is not true. Even in the early times, there was a Russian biologist, Kropotkin. Huxley was a follower of Darwin, who said that, you look at a peaceful scene in the meadow, birds are singing, but actually there is murder in the heart of every beast, and this is a ferocious struggle for survival. This dilemma, this was called social Darwinism, had a very major impact on people's way of thinking. And in fact, a lot of wars and murders and sort of very cold-blooded things that were done were justified on the basis of Darwinism, that if somebody is weak, he deserves to be killed, because basically life is a survival of the fittest. So this is actually exactly what justifies the might is right, that if I am strong, if I can kill you, then it is my right and duty to kill you, so that the society improves, because the weak are eliminated and the strong survive, and so society is made stronger. This is a very wrong argument, but it was widely believed for a long time. Now, when Kropotkin, Russian biologist, saw this, he said that this is wrong. Biology, evolution does not work by competition and by survival of the fittest. And he found many examples in real world biology where animals cooperate, and they found that, for example, cooperation was necessary for species in order to survive in a hostile environment. So a pool of guppies, small fish, they send out some volunteers to go and check if there is a hostile fish coming. So these volunteers, they are actually sacrificing personal benefits. They are taking risks for the benefit of the group. This is exactly, and they are taking the risk of their own life. So, and not one but many examples where animals have to survive to cooperate. And basically, he showed that in a hostile environment, cooperation is very much necessary to survival, and cooperation improves the survival rate. So the idea that competition leads to survival is wrong. So that's what something discussed by Dawes and Thaler. And Axelrod also showed that in a natural biological environment, it might be that those people who are competitive and selfish will die out, and those people who are cooperators will survive. And that's what I hope I will get the time to show in this class, but if not, we will definitely be able to do it in the next class. So now there is this famous example of chickens which occurred actually in this earlier this century. So they were selecting good breeders. They wanted to find chickens which laid the maximum number of eggs. So they set up different, and they have these poultry farms where the chickens are confined to a small cage because they want to keep them in a narrow space. And then they have many different cages so that they can do selection. And then what they did was they selected the best breeders from all the different cages, because this is called individual selection. So they selected the best breeders from many different cages and they put them all together. So now we have the best breeder from 100 different flocks. So what happened is that when you put all of these best breeders together, they did very badly, contrary to the expectation. These were the best in the flock, but they didn't do well. As opposed to this is called individual selection. But there is another process of selection. It says that you select the group, select the best group as a whole. And if you have 2 or 3 or 4 different good groups, then you can mix them and combine them or replicate them. So you have 100 groups, replicate the best group. So it turned out that the group selection worked very well. So biologists were very surprised. So selection occurs not at the group individual level, but at the group level. Why? Well, it turned out when they studied this carefully that the birds which achieve the highest egg laying capabilities are not the ones which are the most fertile, but actually apparently this is a status symbol among the birds. So these are the bullies, the ruthless and the brutal birds which peck hens, which peck other hens who are producers and force them not to produce. So they are abusers and they are leaders. And now when you put all of them together, they get into a big fight. And actually, I looked at the article. There's a picture of the birds in the leader's cave, and they all have feathers torn off and they are bleeding and suffering. On the other hand, the cooperative and harmonious cages, they work nicely together and they improved the efficiency of their egg laying very much. So when these results were taken to the chicken breeders, they didn't believe them because this is against what they had been taught. So it took a while for them to catch on that selection should not be done at the bird level; it should be done in a group level. And what that shows that basically a cooperative and harmonious groups gets better results than selfish and ruthless individuals. Alright, now we are going to play the second classroom experiment. So now you have 2 sheets of paper. Now turn to the front side of this paper. and we are going to play the prisoner's dilemma. I'm going to show how cooperation helps, is better than competition. But in this first strategy, you again remember that this is classroom score. You're not going to get competition. You're not going to get cooperation. You play to maximize your score. And how you do that? Well, I'm going to show you, now I'm going to ask you to write down a strategy for a 4-person repeated game. मुझे भी एक sheet दे दो ताकि मैं देख सकूं इसमें क्या है. Alright, so this is a game, prisoner's dilemma game. Write down your name. And you have 2 strategies. You can either cooperate or defect. There are 4 games, so you will have 4 times the score. I will explain to you because this is in a particular notation which we want to understand very carefully. So, at the first move, you should enter this in row number 1. That is your move. Everybody enter. On the first move, do you want to cooperate or do you want to defect? Remember, the payoffs are written in the bottom of the right hand side. If both parties cooperate, both get 3. If you defect and the other side cooperates, you get 5, the other party gets 0. If you cooperate but the other guy defects, he gets 5 and you get 0. So cooperation is a risky strategy because the other player can take advantage of you. Or if you both defect, then you get the defector's payoff, which is 1 and 1. So both parties get lower payoff from defecting. This is the standard prisoner's dilemma. So now in row 1, you write down C or D. Everybody has done that? Okay. So that's the first move. Now, for the second move, you see I have written down, in every row there are 3 entries. The second entry is where should I go if the other player cooperates, and the third entry is where should I go where the other person defects. So under C you have written 2. That means that if the other player cooperates, then my strategy will be in line number 2. So line number 2, write down something. Line number 2 is to be written down as the other player has cooperated. I don't know what I did because some of you may have defected, some of you have cooperated, but whatever you did, the other player cooperated. So now you write down in row number 2 what you will do if the other player cooperates. And you already know your own first move. Okay. Now in line number 3 you will write down what you will do if the other player defects. So we are going down the strategy tree. The first move you move without any information about what the other guy is doing. So you just get to write down C or D. But 2 or 3 are the 2 branches of the tree that occur. One branch occurs when he cooperates, and that's what you write down in row number 2. And the other branch occurs when the other person defects, and that's what you write down in number 3. Now in each, after the, okay, has everybody written down 2 and 3? These are the 2 options that you have on your second move. Now, at the third move, there are 4 options, and they are depicted in the numbers. After the 2, we have 4, 5, which means that in row number 4, you should write down what happens if the other player cooperated in both rounds, right? Because you are here in 2, the first player cooperated in the first round, and at 4 he is cooperating in the second round also. So regardless of what you did, maybe you defected on both rounds, and then you're doing very great because you made 5 points and the other poor fellow got 0. But in any case, in line number 4, exactly, this is, you see, you're following the branches, but in a certain way that is written in sequentially. I want you to understand the structure because we are going to use this structure later on. So, you should understand this notation, how I am doing this. Because, you see, at 1, we made a move and then there were 2 branches, 2 and 3. And then we came down the branch 2 and now there are 2 branches, 4 and 5. Right? And so at 4, we have other player has cooperated on both rounds. So what you do if other player cooperates on both rounds, write down in blank space number 4. Are you understanding? Okay. No sir. Who is no sir? Okay. निशा तुम्हें समझ में आ रहा है? इसको समझा दो. The groups should explain to each other. क्या? You are writing down only on the first blank. The numbers under C and D represent the branches of the tree. The number under C in the first row is 2, which means that you go to branch 2. This is a go-to. This is a go-to function in computer language. Under the D, the number 3 is a go-to. Go to line 3. Under C, the 2 means go to line 2. So you should read those numbers as being go-to statements. You go to that line. So under 2, after you write down your first move, you go to 4 if the other player cooperates, and you go to 5 if the other player defects. Right? समझ में आया? No sir. नहीं समझ में आया तुम्हें? हाँ? तुम्हें समझ में आ गया? जिसको समझ में आ गया वो उन लोगों को समझा दे जिनको नहीं समझ में आ रहा. हाथ उठाएं जिन लोगों को नहीं समझ में आ रहा. Yes, please go and help. Go and help those people who are not understanding this. अब समझ में आ गया तुम्हें? समझ में आया? Each branch of the tree has been assigned a number, and at every number you are at one particular branch and you have to make the move at that branch. तुम्हें समझ में आ गया? नहीं? तुम खेल ही नहीं रहे हो या? नहीं समझ में आया तुम्हें? इधर आओ. तुम्हें क्यों नहीं समझ में आया?
सर इसमें यही समझ आ रहा है कि 4 के अब आपने यहाँ पे लिखा हुआ थर्ड मूव CC है, तो इन दोनों को देख के फिर 4 को मूव करना है.
यहाँ पे D आया. अब इसने कोऑपरेट किया तो तुम यहाँ चले गए. अगर दूसरे प्लेयर ने डिफेक्ट किया तो तुम यहाँ चले गए. अब तुमने यहाँ पे हो तो तुम यहाँ से इस लाइन से आ रहे हो. उससे तुमने डिफेक्ट किया, उसने कोऑपरेट किया, फिर तुमने डिफेक्ट किया, फिर उसने कोऑपरेट किया, तो अब यहाँ पे पहुँच गए तुम 4 पे. तो दे आर 2, यू डिफेक्टेड, कोऑपरेट, डिफेक्ट, कोऑपरेट. अब यहाँ पे तुम क्या करोगे? उसके बाद फिर
अगर सर यहाँ पर अगर डिफेक्ट करता है फर्स्ट प्लेयर,
यू आर द फर्स्ट प्लेयर.
यस.
हाँ,
अगर वो डिफेक्ट करता है तो फिर वो CG को देखेगा.
हाँ, फिर यानी ये उसके दूसरे प्लेयर के ऑप्शंस हैं. If the other player cooperates, then you go to 8. If the defects, then you go to 9.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Does everybody understand? All right. So let me now go through this again. What is your first move? Write down on player in slot 1. Okay. Make sure. What is your first move? Write down in slot 1. Okay. Everybody has done that?
Yes, sir.
Now in row 2, what will you do if the other player cooperates in the first round? Write that down. In row 3, write down what you will do if the other player defects. Okay. In row 4, write down what you will do if the other player. Okay, so that's the end of the second move. Now we are at the third move. In the third move, in row 4, write down what you will do if if the player has cooperated on both rounds. He played C on the first game and he played C on the second game. Now what you will do in the third game. That's what you write in the row 4. Has everybody written that? In row 5, the other player cooperated in the first round, but he defected in the second round. So now what you will do? That's what you write in 5. You see, the strategy tells everything, every possible choice that you have to make. ठीक है? So row 5 पे हो गया काम? Row 6 में the first player defected in the first round, but he cooperated in the second round. Now what you will do? He played D in the first round and he cooperated in the second round. So that's what you write down in row 6. Okay, everybody wrote down 6? Now in row 7, the other player defected in both rounds. So what will you do? At the end of row 7, you are finished with round 3. And so the last round, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, these are 8 branches of the tree at the 4th round, which is the last round. Or इसमें फिर there are no further go-tos, so there is X after that. So 8 comes from 4, it's a CCC, yani 3 cooperatives, moves by the other party. So what should you write in 8? And then 9 is coming from CCD. So he cooperated and defected in third round. So what will you do? In 10, it comes from CDD, exactly. So cooperate, defect, cooperate. So what will you do? In 11, it comes from CDD, exactly. In 12, it comes from.
Sir, sorry, what was the 11?
11 was CDD.
CDD was in 10.
Sorry. 11 CDD है ना?
It was also CDD.
नहीं. You can write it down and you can trace it back, you see. Look at 11 and go back to where 11 is listed on the other side. So 11 is listed as a defect under in row 5. And then you go back to row 5 and it is again defect. So that's DD. And then 2 goes back to C. You can trace it back. Trace the numbers back in the table to discover what the other player played. So at 11, you see, you look at 11, it's in column, it's in the D column. So at the 5th move, so that means he defected. Then you go back to 5. 5 is also defect. So that's D. And then you go back to 2 and that's C. So that's CDD. 11 is CDD. "12 is DCC. He defected on the first move, cooperated on the second and third. 13 is 13 is DCD. 14 is DDC. And 15 is DDD. 15 is the economist.
Sir, what was the 14?
14, you see, you can look it back. 14 is in the C column, so the last move he made was C, and then that's in 7, row 7, so 7 is D before that, and row 3 is D before that, so it's DDC. So everybody has written down all the 15 moves? Alright. Now copy this in the other part also. I want both sides to have, I want 2 copies of your strategy. Make an exact duplicate in 2 sheets and put your name on both papers. क्या हुआ? क्या हुआ? You want another one?
No, sir. Do we have to use another paper?
Make 2 copies. There should be, yes, 2 copies. 2 different papers, yes. Put your name down on both copies, but they should be identical. You're not playing 2 different games, it's the same game. Same strategy on both papers. Alright, has everybody finished writing? Just copy your paper. Alright? Everybody has 2 copies. Two papers like this with identical strategies. Now we are just going to trade strategies. Keep one of your strategies with you and give the other one to Nisa. Nisa, collect all of these strategies, please. One copy of the strategy from everybody. Have you collected the Alright, has everybody given the duplicate strategy? Now, Nisa, you have collected everybody's strategy? So now just distribute these at random to everybody. So you are now going to play against the 2 strategies against each other, right? So just distribute them. So you are playing against, now you score both papers, right? For each round there, you see there are 4 blanks on the score. In the first game, what was your score? You write on your sheet. And what was the other person's score? You write on their sheet. Understood? So if both people cooperated in the first round, then the score both got 3. If you defected and he cooperated, then you get 5 and he gets 0. If you cooperated and he defected, then you get 0 and he gets 5. And if both of you defected, then both of you get 1 point. So score the first round in the first blank. ठीक है? Okay, you got the score of the first round. Now look at the second round. In the second round, find out which branch of the tree you are following. This will be a little bit complicated. You have to do some calculations. And you have to follow the branch. You have to follow the branch. If the other person cooperated, then you go to 2. If the other person defected, then you go to 3 and look at what happened in the 3. And you have to follow this for both sides. Both sides require separate calculations. Both people will be making separate calculations. In your own paper, you look at what the other guy did and then you follow the right branch. If the other person cooperated, you look at your response in 2. If the other person defected, you look at his response in 3. And write down what happened actually. Yani, first C and D. Yani, when these two strategies are played against each other, then both of them determine what is happening, because both parties are making choices. नहीं समझ में आया? क्या हुआ?
How we have to score the 3? Like we have.
Okay, you got the first answer. Now, did your partner look? Both you're looking at your own paper, right? What did you do on your first move?
I did the same.
You did defect, and what did the other party do?
He did cooperate.
So DC. So he cooperated. So he is in row number 2. He did. So you go to 2. Now what did you write down in row 2?
I did cooperate.
So now. You defected on the first round, he cooperated on the first round. Now you cooperated. So now what did he do? Now you have to look at his paper. Go to his paper and see what he will do when you defect. That will be in row 3 of his paper.
He also cooperated.
नहीं, in row 3 क्या लिखा है?
He also did cooperate.
In row 3 it is. Acha, I see. Oh, this is a cooperator. So then, you cooperated, he cooperated, both of you get 3, right? But yani to find out what he did, you have to go to his paper and see what he responded to your strategy. To find out what you have to look at both papers to get your scores. Alright, now I'm going to leave the scoring for you to do later, and I'm going to continue. I think you have enough understanding to follow the next part. So, what I am going to do is there's this game called Oyun in which we will study strategies. Everybody please listen, this is very complicated and difficult. Is everybody listening? Yes, I see a lot of arguments. Yeah, grading बाद में कर लेना. It's not important right now. Okay, here is a strategy which is written in the form that is asked for by this game Oyun. This game says write down your strategy. Write down strategy in a special form. It is exactly the same form that you have been taught. But you see, instead of listing 2, 3, every step is different, you can just go back that I will repeat this same strategy. So here is a very simple strategy. This is called the angel strategy. And the authors write that if you have a group of nice, innocent undergraduates, this is what they will play. All cooperate. This is exactly the angel strategy was what you had. So what is the angel strategy? You see, this is the first line is the name of the author of the strategy. I wrote my name down. Then the second strategy is the name of the strategy, which I call the angel strategy. The third line tells you how many states you have. In our game, we would have had 15 states. Here I am just putting down one state. Now the one thing important to understand is that state numbering for this game starts with 0. So state 0 is the first state. So the first state is called 0. Now it says, I will cooperate in the first round. That is what the C says. You can say either C or D. After that, the comma, it says what to do if the other player cooperates. So it says go to step 0. And what to do if the other player defects? Go to step 0 again. So regardless of what the other player does, you will just repeat your 0 decision, right? So in this case, regardless of what the other player does, you go back to 0, and at 0 again you are at the same place, you cooperate, and then whatever the other player does, you again cooperate. So this is called the angel strategy. Now, as opposed to this, we have the devil strategy or Lucifer strategy. This is the economist. So this is my author name is AZ3. The strategy name is economist. There is only one move, and this is the strategy 0. You defect on the first move, and regardless of what he does, you again defect. So this is the strategy. Now I am going to feed these strategies to the game Oyun, which I hope has been set up properly here. Okay, great. Now I'm going to now we are going to have a lot of fun. We're going to show how these players play against each other. Now what will happen if the angels play the devils? Huh?
You will get 0.
Who will win?
Devil.
Devils will win. Yes. Okay. Add finite state machine. Alright. Oye, ये कहाँ पे है मेरा जो फोल्ड? अच्छा, it's in the folder in the Kingston. Yes. Yes, in here. Yeah. Here's the angel strategy. Okay. Alright, so I have two sets of players, angels and devils, and so now I go next, and now this game will play a tournament in which these two players will be matched against each other. So there are, you see, in the tournament, you see, we think that there is a population in which there are lots of angels and lots of economists, and so they get to play with each other. So angel will play with angel also, and angel will play with economist also. Think of now we are thinking the biological setup. So there are 100 angels, 100 economists, and so every angel will play with 99 other angels and 100 economists. So similarly, the economist will play with economist also, and he will also play with angels. So now what will the results be? I say run tournament. So when you have angel versus economist, the angels get 0 and the economists get 8,870. This is there are hundreds of games which we can see in detail later, these games. Angel versus angel both score very good, 5,322. Economists both score very poorly, 1,774. But now the problem is that the economists do so well against the angels that they win this tournament. Now this it depends on the size. We can change this so that the cooperation is so strong. Here it's 5, 3 and 0. That the economists, the angels might win in this one, because even though they lose against the economists, the gains they make on cooperation can compensate, and the gain from betrayal might be lower, and in which case the economists won't. But in this particular setup, the economists win. Now, there are two ways that we think. One is that in the tournament, everybody plays everybody and who gets the higher score. So we see that the economist has won this round. So in this particular population, the economists would win. Now what happens in evolutionary biology, and this is the key step, is that if we, at this point we say that, okay, now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put 12,418 economists into the population, and I'm going to put 10,644 angels into the population, because their score is it determines their fitness level, how many of them survived into the second round. And then we just keep repeating this. With this many people in the population, now the angels get to play with fewer angels, so they will not have such a good score, because if the angels increase, then the cooperative score will increase. But if the angels decrease, then the cooperative score will decrease. So what we can do is we can try to do the other evolutionary tournament. Okay, next. Run tournament. Alright, so show legend. The black strategy is the angel strategy and the red is the economist. So you see that the angels start to go down and the devils start to go up, and eventually basically the angels are eliminated from the population. So basically all cooperative strategy, if there are both types of people around in the population, one is completely selfish and the other is completely cooperative, then the cooperative people will die out in this population. Now let us go and try something else. Add built-in player. Okay, so there is a random player. A random player plays completely at random. He sometimes he has no logic, just doesn't respond. So we add a random player, and now we see what happens in the tournament. Okay. Next, one-shot tournament. Next. Okay, so now there are 6 different competitions. Angel will play built-in random. Angel will play economist, angel with angel, built-in random with built-in random, economist with built-in random, and economist. So all 6 will be played, and then we will look at the scores. Okay, so we run tournament. Alright, so the economist won this game. Built-in random comes in next, and the angel comes in third. Let's look at what happens in the evolutionary tournament. So this is what happens. The built-in random strategy gets destroyed, and the cooperators also get destroyed. Why does the built-in random strategy get destroyed? You should be able to understand this.
Because he was neutral to the behavior of the selfish economist.
Yeah, so you see, he keeps cooperating or defecting at random. The other party always defects. So when he cooperates, he gets 0, and when he defects, both sides get 1. So he scores the bad score. And on half of the trials, he scores badly, and on the other half, he scores as good as you can do against an economist. And now there are many other variations that we can do. Alright, now I'm going to remove the economist from this situation for the moment. Oh, acha. Now let's do another one. Okay, so I'm going to remove the angels. Oh, I don't need to remove them. They will automatically add built-in player. Yes. Now this tit for tat player, this is a very strong player. What he does is, he just does whatever the other player did on the previous move. So if you cooperate, I cooperate. If you defect, then I will defect on the next move. If you cooperate, I will cooperate on the next move. So let's see how this one does. So I'm going to add the tit for tat and see what happens. Alright, so next, one shot tournament. Run tournament. Okay, angels are still doing very badly, economists are doing better, but the built-in tit for tat does the best. Now let's look at the evolutionary tournament. Okay. What? The economist one? No, this is something wrong here. There is something wrong in this. This shouldn't happen like this. The red is the economist. Alright, so I think we have run out of time, but you got the concept, and I will look at why this didn't work properly later. So I think that now the first thing you should do is to do the quiz. Nisa will administer the quiz for half an hour, and then finish grading your prisoner's dilemma later, and you can submit it to Nisa for later. So we'll stop the lecture over here. Now in the tit for tat, oh yes. Tit for tat should not lose against economists, but